I think he's great. And I know we've had a little bit. It's funny enough. This is the first movie I believe we ever talked about together. Was this movie?
Yeah. The first, the first stream we did was a Romero remakes stream,
and we did and
Romero.
Romero in the '90s on my channel, which was the first
Yes.
movie we discussed. So this is like
It's a full circle moment.
Thing we talk about here. Like when I see you in later in the month, we'll have to just be like, all right, so night 90.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
When there's no more room in hell.
Let's talk about this night 90 release that everybody's been talking about, everybody's been waiting for. In terms of like if you're looking at like Second Sight stuff, they got like books and all kinds of stuff with their stuff. This one, no book or anything. It's just your regular still book. But it's chocked with bonus features, interviews, new commentary track with Tom Savini and Michael Felsher, which is really, really good. Did you get a chance to listen to that?
I didn't get a chance to listen to the commentary, unfortunately, but I did watch the uncensored 4K today when I got home from my shift, and we definitely have a lot to discuss there for sure. But if you watch the commentary and want to talk about it, by all means.
It's a really good comment. It's got both commentaries. So it's got the original commentary that Tom did for the theatrical version from years ago, the same commentary that was included on the original DVD. It's that commentary. That one's included on it. But it's also got the brand new commentary with him and Felsher. And him and Michael Felsher are pretty good friends. So it's one of those commentaries where it's really relaxed, laid back, and Tom really kind of opens up about things. Because, when you're just shooting the shit with a buddy, you're kind of more honest and open about things.
Yeah.
And Felsher's great because Felsher's a huge fan, and he knows the questions to ask. He knows what directions to take things. So it's a really, really interesting, really good commentary. Like a lot of the stuff Savini talks about is a lot of stuff he's already kind of talked about, especially if you watch the interview that Savini did on this beforehand. But you do get some pretty interesting little bits and nuggets in there as well. It's definitely a good commentary worth listening to, just to hear those two, banter back and forth. And it's interesting to hear Tom's perspective on the film years later, because, at first Tom hated it, didn't want to talk about it. Like Felsher talks about in the commentaries, like, the first time I ever met you was at a convention in like '94. And I had my Night 90 poster, and I brought it up to you, and you said, oh, hey, thanks for reminding me of the worst time of my life, type of thing. And he was like, he was going through a divorce at the time, and, just not a good experience for Tom. Like, they were always kind of, smacking his hand, telling him he couldn't do this, couldn't do that. But over time, it was interesting hearing. He was like, yeah, over time, though, like I went back and watched it at a screening once, and I really was able to kind of enjoy it for the first time. So, and hearing him talk about it in retrospect and how he's kind of come to appreciate it, which I'm sure he has. Because, I know a lot of people love this movie now. Some people even like it more than the original. I'm not one of those. I'm still a diehard, original Night fan. But this was the movie that kind of introduced me to the zombie genre and introduced me to George when I was younger. So I have a special place in my heart for this movie always. Like, this is pure nostalgia for me anytime I watch it, because I can remember renting it, and putting it on and watching it for the first time, and it's scaring the hell out of me. Like, it's one of the only zombie movies I remember watching that actually scared me, like when I was a kid. Like, I could picture the zombies, trying to get in through the windows and stuff like that. That freaked me out when I was a kid. So yeah, people over time have really fallen in love with this movie. And I don't think especially Sony, I don't think Sony was prepared for how popular this release was going to be, because it's so hard to find right now. I know that there's rumors that they'll be putting it back out like in November. I think there'll be a restock of it or something. But you can just tell by the demand that this release has had. It's been so hard to find, that the popularity of it has grown over the 35 years since it's come out. But the uncensored version, that was the big selling point. That was the big thing everybody's talking. That's Savini's whole this is like, the original version's like 40% of what I wanted. This is like 70% of what I wanted. So everybody was like, oh, what is this? Or like, deleted scenes and different stuff. Like, what's going to be included in this? Because, he never really said specifically what else was included. It was all just kind of speculation. So, with that said, what did you think of the uncensored version compared to the theatrical version? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
I will say first and foremost that I am a big fan of this movie too. Again, not better than the original either. I'm there with you completely. And that was the big selling point for me too. I was very excited to see, are we going to get like 15 minutes of new footage, 10 minutes of new footage, even 5 minutes of new footage? And the answer is no. We get an opening in black and white, which I thought was okay, kind of cool, nod back. And then, of course, once the first zombie does attack Barbara, we switch to color. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. And most of the rest of what I noticed, I don't know if you noticed anything different, was mostly just occasional, a little bit more violence, a little bit more gore, right? There's the scene where that first zombie gets hit in the head. There's a little bit more there. There's some stuff later on, but I wouldn't say this is like, oh, you've never really seen Night of the Living Dead 1990 until you see the uncensored. It's nothing like that big of a change to me. At least that's how I felt. I don't know. How did you feel?
So watching it, I felt a little bait and switched by it.
Ooh.
I felt like, there's all this stuff, because there is a work print version out there. It's rough, and, it's got the temp track on it with all the music and stuff. So there's a work print version out there, and there's more in that work print than is even in this version. Like, the opening is longer. There's more dialogue at the beginning between Johnny and Barbara. There's more shots of the car driving up through the cemetery. Right. So I felt like there was more in that. And so I was kind of thinking, like, if nothing else, this version would have just been that work print version, but cleaned up, restored, with the, the Paul McCullough soundtrack on it. Which I was really curious to see, like, how are they going to cut the music to the longer opening and some of the new stuff that's going to be in there. It really wasn't necessary to be done in this one, honestly, because most of the stuff that they cut back in there was just like, exit wounds from the gunshots, or like you said, the Uncle Reed zombie. There's a 5-second shot of the fire poker that she's like pulling out of his head. Which looked cool and was a cool effect, and it does, I don't know if it's necessary, but it's cool. It's definitely cool. But outside of that, like the head explosion, the zombie with the shotgun,
right,
the head
that
explosion,
was the big one for sure.
That was the big one. But to me, that just kind of looked bad. Like, it kind of looked shitty. Like, you could kind of tell it was a dummy because the arms are just kind of stuck like this, and it just kind of falls over. So I don't know. That one was like, all right, it's cool. There was a head explosion in this, but it's not necessary. They could have done it better, I think. But outside of that, like, there's really not much else different about this version. Like, yes, of course, the black and white opening, which I liked it when it came on, and you see the Columbia Pictures logo, and it's in black and white, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like that. And then the car driving through, and I like that. But I think the way that it transitioned from the black and white to the color was just a little too jarring. Because I'd always heard Tom talk about this opening of, like, starting in black and white and then gradually, going into color. And I always had this image in my mind, I guess, like, that would work perfectly for the original. I think it would work perfect, like, as the car pulls up next to the chapel. That slow when it's pulling up and parking, like, going from black and white to color there would work. But the way that it's done in this, it's so, like, sudden and kind of jarring.
Jump scare into color. That's how they did it.
Exactly.
I was like, okay, I wasn't against it. I thought it was kind of an interesting switch. And I'll say this too, like, getting into the transfer, because this is an interesting release in so many ways, because it's not like this is the first time they've tried something like this. And I'm sure the fabled history of this movie when it tried to make its jump from standard to HD. I mean, of course, the Twilight Time Blu-ray, which sold out within minutes, and people were not happy with the transfer. I believe that complaint there was that it was too dark. Things were too dark. then with the Umbrella Entertainment release where everything was too bright, and then the Sony Blu-ray, which I, of the three, had always heard was the best of the three because it kind of balanced those colors out well. I personally watched it, and I had the problems that people have with the Twilight Times. I felt it was a little too dark when I finally did see that, and we actually, crazy enough, we watched it the night Tony Todd passed away. A bunch of me and my friend, we were out celebrating a buddy's birthday, and we got dinner, and I had heard the news, the sad, tragic news of Tony Todd's passing, and I was all upset, and we were like, hey, we're still going to hang out, go back to the house, and he was like, do you want to watch a flick or something? It's your choice. We always watch what I want. You pick something. And I said, well, just hearing the news of Tony Todd, I was like, I want to watch Night of the Living Dead 1990, and we watched the Sony, and man, it just looked too dark. It really did. So I will say, transfer-wise, this is the best this movie has ever looked, bar none. And I would say easily. The sound, which I believe it's 7.1 Dolby, it's incredible. If you have a good sound system, if you have a good sound bar, subwoofer, the whole 9 yards, it sounds incredible. And I also listened to the 5.1. I dabbled a little bit with the 5.1. I thought that sounded quite good too. Multi-channel 5.1, good audio. I don't know, man. I was very impressed with how this looked, sound, the presentation of it. Like, that to me is a bigger reason to get it, as opposed to why me and you might have clicked add to cart with the whole uncensored thing. Although I don't feel like scammed or anything. Like, this is the best it's ever looked. Those other Blu-rays, for the most part, I've not heard much good. I don't know about you, but that's kind of the gist.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, it definitely looks great, and I'm totally 100% with you. It definitely sounds great. When Tom even talks about that in the commentary, which the commentary sounded like it was recorded fairly recently, like within the last year, because they're talking about Tim DeLeo's passing and Tony Todd's passing, so that was recorded very recently. And that was one thing Tom pointed out when they were doing this disc, was he made sure that he wanted the gunshots to really come through. He wanted the sound to really come through and be bigger in this. And you can definitely tell that they enhanced a lot of that stuff. And yeah, it sounds great, looks great. I mean, I'm happy. I'm totally fine with this purchase, not just for the transfer and everything, but the bonus features. There's some great interviews in this as well. But like I said, the bait and switch thing was just mainly, I don't know. I was thinking, like, man, is there something else out there that we haven't seen with this movie? Like, is there an extra scene or some extra shots or something that they're putting in here? And really, it's about, I don't know, 20 or 30 seconds of extra quick shots of things, which it does add to the movie. I mean, it definitely gives it a little bit more gore, a little more blood. I mean, you think George Romero, Tom Savini, Night of the Living Dead, you're thinking, Jesus Christ, like, and it definitely works a little better. Like when you see like in the original, they cut away from a lot of the stuff like that. And it's just kind of like, oh, obviously they cut away, but it's nice to have that restored back into it. I was just hoping, because I've heard Tom talk about it like for years, and you hear him talk about it a lot in the interview, as well as the commentary. A lot of the extra stuff that he wanted to do in the Night of the Living Dead, like a lot of the extra scenes and stuff. Some of which I feel like, yeah, that might have been cool if that was in there, but a lot of it I could totally understand why George specifically, like George was the one that was like, hey, we gotta cut some of this stuff out. Like George, said, this is a great. You got 6 weeks worth of filming here, and you got 4 weeks to do it, so we got to cut some stuff out. And a lot of it's just like Tom wanting to, experiment and try new things and do, that was always my biggest complaint with Savini as a director in this film, is I feel like part of the issue was always he was a little too micro-focused on certain aspects of it, as opposed to keeping his eye on the bigger picture a lot of the times. Like he's more like he wanted to do so much little stuff. Like at one point he wanted like a spider to crawl across Barbara's hand in one of the scenes, and he's like, oh well they wouldn't let me do that. I'm like, well, there's no point in doing that. Like I get it, it's a little extra little thing you put in there, but it's really unnecessary and it's not that big of a deal,